Hey guys, welcome back to Talking Walking Dead, the episode Say the Word this week. And hey, there's a character who didn't speak till the very end, and he said a word.
Wow, that's clever.
Ah, there you go.
I like that.
Let's first of all, though, let's talk Carol. Let's get this out of the way.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah, because a lot of people wondered, why were we saying she is dead last week, adamant about it. We watched this on a little screener on a computer, and I thought, and I think you thought the same thing, that was supposed to be Carol's corpse that the zombie was eating.
Yeah.
I saw it on TV, and I saw it was supposed to be a big corpse, so I'm guessing that was T-Dog. So we didn't really see Carol's death, and there's some questions there.
I mean, and that's part of the problem too. Like, it's an issue that we don't really know.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh hey, the part of the story is that they think she's dead, but she's not really.
Yeah.
We as viewers don't know really what's going on, and this episode didn't really help that matter either.
It didn't. I mean, it solidified that they think she's dead. They even had a grave for her. But the fact that they didn't even have the actress do press last week, when the other two actors who've been killed off much more, on screen did. Now we do think she probably will pop up at some point, but certainly we hope that doesn't take too long, because the longer they draw that out, that'll be frustrating.
I will say the moment with Daryl and her grave though was pretty sweet. I enjoyed that.
I do. In general, I thought this was a great Daryl episode.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of big Daryl fans out there. If you go to Comic-Con and he's there, they go crazy. All the ladies who love Daryl, this one was for them, I think.
Norman Reedus, man.
The Reedus, he's delivering. But we thought Daryl, he kind of took charge here. The fact that Rick was so out of it. Daryl was the guy who was like, let's get this done. Let's go get this formula. He's personally feeding the baby at the end. I mean, this was Daryl at his most nurturing,
He's a big softie. He really is. So I dig it.
I do too. I mean, I actually think Reedus really sells this character and the contradictions of this character very well. This was an aftermath episode, so definitely not as eventful as last week. What did you think of it overall?
I liked it a lot more than last week's episode. I wasn't super keen on last week's episode, but in general, I think the aftermath is the stuff that's more interesting than what actually took place last week. And I think we get to see that here, with everybody, really.
I mean, I loved last week overall. I mean, I did have some qualms about it, but I definitely was more positive about it than you. And I wouldn't say I like this week's more, because just last week I thought had more of a gut punch and some really emotional stuff. But yeah, this was a very good episode as far as showing what a big thing had just happened to everyone. Yeah. And it was effective. I mean, joking aside, that Rick was just on a freaking warpath in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because he's always been the anchor character for this show. And now just to see him go on this path of just like he's a psychotic breakdown, really, and I'm sure it's not going to get any better anytime soon. It's really interesting to me.
And he killed some zombies good.
He did.
There was some very effective zombie killing in this episode.
I will agree with you on that.
Let's talk about Woodbury, though, because very interesting episode. And if you've read the comic books, one that made you definitely, I think, sit up and go, when we saw what the governor, his idea of entertainment that we saw in this episode.
It's creepy because you consider Michonne's looking in on Woodbury like there's something not right here and no one knows about it. But then you see the sort of entertainment that all these people are enjoying, and maybe they do kind of know that things aren't how they should be, but they're clearly okay with it, and they're enjoying this horrible, horrible show that the governor's putting on.
Yeah, and that pretty much comes straight from the comic book, that idea of the sort of gladiator fights with the zombies around it. And I really kind of like, we already said that we liked this approach to the governor and making it a little more subtle as we meet him. Yeah. So I like the idea that at night this is what they do, because when you get to Woodbury, it doesn't look too intimidating, but then you see what's really going on underneath.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool moment. And plus, I mean, we got to talk about the very opening of the episode with the governor and his daughter.
Oh yeah,
which is very interesting, because last episode we didn't get any like creepy governor stuff, and now it just opens on this, and it's like totally normal in a way, but obviously it's completely like off the chain and bizarre.
That was great. Another thing right from the comic books, the idea of him having his daughter, but I actually think it's better than the comic books, because he has his daughter in the comics, but he just seems kind of like, he's crazy obviously, but he's just kind of hitting her away.
Right.
But to see him be all loving and brushing her hair, and then great zombie moment of her scalp tearing away, that was very, very effective.
Yeah, and it's a cool like sort of retroactive thing where we remember when we first met him and the moment with the family picture and all that stuff. It just sort of all really culminates and builds this character a lot more.
I also thought this was actually the best episode yet for Michonne, as far as really kind of showing what she can do. I loved when she let loose those zombies and was so nonchalant about how the fact that she was going to take them all out.
Yeah.
Andrea, it's a little, Andrea, you have to roll your eyes sometimes, because when Michonne says, hey, they have a bunch of zombies they're keeping, she kind of just is like, whatever, She doesn't, you would think she would go and ask the governor questions about that.
Yeah, I mean, she saw that situation, and that's what makes it worse, is that she saw it on the farm, the same kind of like, oh, they're holding zombies and this is not cool.
Yeah.
And we saw how that turned out, but it's okay in Woodbury, I guess. I don't know, like, I don't buy that whole thing.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be that she's so desperately clinging to the idea of like something safe haven, but you still would hope that she would. Well, now she's definitely going to ask some questions, I think, after what happened at the end. But you would hope before then she might have.
Yeah.
But then the very end raises a big new question with that phone ringing and who the hell is on the other side of that phone.
I mean, I think fans of the comics sort of know where that's going. But as a cliffhanger for this episode, I think and having that be the last word that he says the word as the episode suggests, but I think it's just a really creepy, great moment to end that episode on.
I hope it's Carol. She's like, hey, I found this place.
Where are you guys?
That's right. I just booked it out of there and I found some phones that work.
That'd be fantastic.
Who do you think that was? Let us know in the comments, and we'll be back next week, talk more Walking Dead.